Do your monitors sound a little off? Maybe because there's a low mid buildup, or maybe you're not getting any low end. And now you're wondering, is this my room? Is this my speakers? Well, I'm here to tell you it's most likely neither. I actually recently got a client who swapped out his speakers just because of this problem, but it didn't actually fix anything. He was still getting the same issues. What was his real problem? Positioning. So not the room, not the speakers, but how he used the speakers in the room. Today, I'll show you how to spot this exact issue using Room EQ Wizard measurements and a particular little function that most people don't really know about that can really tell you whether you're set up at the right position and if it is your room or your speakers after all. Hey, what's up? It's Jesko from Acoustics Insider, where I teach home studio acoustic treatment techniques for audio professionals, but without all the voodoo. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, alongside these videos, I run my premium courses, Build a Better Bass Trap and Absorber Placement Hacks. So if you're struggling with the low end, maybe with muddy bass, kick drums, basically low end that never translates, then this is for you. These courses show you exactly how to take control of your low end using proven methods in real rooms with real budgets. So if you're serious about getting your room, getting your low end to work, check that out at the link in the description. It's getting hot with all these studio lights on. But with that, let me get back to this client that I was just talking about. So here are the measurements that he sent me. And to no surprise, he was saying that he got a lot of boxiness in the low mids. The clarity was basically gone. And even EQ didn't really help. Now, if you're in a situation like this, if you're taking your own measurements, you might think, my room's all messed up. Or potentially even my speakers are broke. But from my experience, I can tell you immediately when looking at this that this is a positioning problem, because no speaker is this crooked, and even the worst rooms, which are basically cube rooms, still allow you to get a balanced response if you set up correctly. So this room, in fact, where he took these measurements, was a standard rectangular room. He did all the right things, followed the rules of thumb. So he faced the short end with his setup. He placed his listening position roughly at 38% of the length of the room. It was all symmetrically laid out, left to right. And he still got this response in his measurements. Quick note, by the way, this is the left and right speaker combined in the measurements. And you don't want to ever do that. You always want to measure speakers separately, because you basically get interference from the two speakers, which creates comb filters. And in particular, that messes up the high end. So what we're seeing right here at the top is actually an artifact of him measuring both speakers together. Yeah, so if you want accurate measurements, you always measure speakers individually. Obviously, in a stereo setup, that means one measurement for the left speaker, one measurement for the right speaker. But so even by following these rules of thumb, he didn't even get close to a balanced response, which is possible in every room. And the way to check that is to use the Psychoacoustic smoothing function. So if you click on Actions, it opens up this Actions window, and there's a smoothing option called Psychoacoustic Smoothing. And this will basically give you a smoothed version of the response that mimics, or supposedly mimics, how we actually hear. So this roughly represents what the frequency content from the speaker sounded like at the listening position. And this shows even more clearly this massive low mid buildup at around 100 Hertz, and then this steep drop off that comes afterwards, basically giving this room, at least from a perception point of view, basically no low end. On a system like this, it's basically impossible to mix. I mean, it's possible, but you really have to jump through some serious hoops using referencing and other monitoring, like in-ears, headphones, to get an idea of what's actually going on. But this isn't how it needs to be. In any room, you can get a balanced frequency response simply by setting up your listening position and your speakers in the right spot in the room. So this next example is from another room that a client is working from. And let me just disable this first measurement. Here's what that looks like with 1/24th octave smoothing. And now if I apply this psychoacoustic smoothing filter, look at what that looks like. So this comes close-ish to the natural response of the speaker. And in fact, this room was not a perfect room at all. This is a very asymmetrical room. It's basically L-shaped, and he set up at the sort of toe end of the L, if you think of it as a boot, and there was a bay window there. So he was facing windows as well. The room kind of extended towards the back left of him. But what he did right was that he used the room to his advantage to find the low-end sweet spot in the room to set up his listening position and then place his speakers accordingly with local symmetry around him. So that's why we get these two lines, and now we have separate measurements for the left and right here, by the way. And look how closely they match each other. It's not perfect because it is an asymmetrical room, but it's pretty dang close. And most importantly, if we say 80 decibels is kind of our center line in this frequency response, we're getting a maximum of maybe 5, 6 decibels of swing above and below across this entire measurement. That's what I call a balanced response. It's not flat, but it is balanced across the entire spectrum. And this is, again, also in an untreated room. Both of these measurements were taken in untreated rooms. One of them, a perfect rectangle, this one, and the other one in an asymmetric L-shaped room with the speakers set up only with local symmetry around them. So I wanted to show you this so you understand, first of all, the power of correct positioning in the room, the fact that you can do this in just about any room, and how you can use the psychoacoustic smoothing function here in Room EQ Wizard to get an idea whether you've actually found the ideal spot yet or not. Of course, the question becomes, how do you find that ideal spot? And the short answer is by testing the room using basically your ears. You could do this with measurements, but you'll be turning in circles in no time because it really needs a deep understanding of the measurement software, of acoustics, of psychoacoustics in order to not get lost. Once you have 5 to 10 positions measured like this, I guarantee you'll have no idea which one of them you should pick and which one of them is technically the best. A much quicker way, a more efficient and effective way, is to use your ears. But you have to test the room. You can't rely on rules of thumb to find the ideal listening position and speaker setup in your room. You need to actually work with the response in your room in order to figure this out. And that's what the Phantom Speaker Test course is for. I've plugged this many times. I'll plug it again now. It's a 2-step process to first of all find the low-end sweet spot in your room. That allows you to make sure that this part of the spectrum is balanced. And it's basically just a structured listening test with the speaker in the corner to isolate the room mode issue from all the other potential issues. And that allows you to create a worst case scenario in which it is as easy as potentially possible to find that low-end sweet spot where the low end balances out. And that's where you then sit. And then the second test of it, the second component of this test is about setting up your speakers and making sure they are symmetrical, locally symmetrical in the room, and making sure the rest of this response also is balanced. Yeah, it's a simple listening test. It's completely free. You can sign up to it at the link in the description. The Phantom Speaker Test. It's the most effective, the most efficient way to test any new room, whether it's suitable for use as a studio and where exactly you need to set up in order to get a balanced response, which you can then build on with treatment, with subwoofers, with EQ if you need to, and all the other components that are part of the room treatment process. Okay, so if you're in the same situation, if you're listening to your speakers, you've got low mid buildup, lack of bass, exaggerated high end, exaggerated high mids, whatever it is, I guarantee if you haven't yet put the effort in to place your listening position and your speakers properly, then that is the reason why you're having this issue. And the way to solve that problem is to use your ears, find the low end sweet spot, set up your speakers using my phantom speaker test method, and then you can confirm the results with Room EQ Wizard and the Psychoacoustic smoothing function to make sure that you've got a roughly balanced frequency response. And again, also notice that this isn't flat, this isn't perfect. You will see large dips and potentially large peaks depending on the exact composition of your room. But that's why the smoothing function is so important, because it takes that away and makes you focus on the overall larger picture. And that's what you need to emphasize in this first step of setting up your listening position and speakers. So until you find those spots, nothing else is going to matter. No treatment, no EQ, no new speakers. It's all about how you use your speakers in your room that matters at this stage. Balanced, trustworthy monitoring is possible in any room, but it all starts with positioning. So with that, let's get back to learning to trust our ears and having fun making music in the studio. I'll see you in the next video.